The following podcast has been produced by the Museum of History and Industry in partnership with Jack Straw Productions.
This is Helen Diviak speaking with Dr. Lorraine McConaughey, historian from the Museum of History and Industry. Lorraine, 9/11 is considered a defining tragedy for our nation, but terrorism has been a constant factor throughout our nation's history. Can you tell me about the Knights of the Golden Circle and how they posed a threat?
The Knights of the Golden Circle in the Pacific Northwest are sort of a subset of a much larger national movement. The Knights of the Golden Circle originated in the late 1840s and into the 1850s in Cincinnati, Ohio, and then into Texas, and then spreading throughout the southeastern states. The notion was this, that Cuba would be the dead center of an enormous circle, and that huge circle would become slave-holding territory under the flag or perhaps outside the flag. When we research the Knights of the Golden Circle at the Oregon Historical Society, we find that the Knights were a secret society. To join, one had to own a long gun and a handgun and 40 rounds of ammunition for each. Every member of the Knights of the Golden Circle was sworn to absolute secrecy, and every member also had to support the Confederacy with real money. The Knights of the Golden Circle in the Pacific Northwest, particularly in Washington Territory, were organized in order to replace the Lincoln-appointed government here in Washington with a Confederate-appointed government. The idea was to take out Washington, Oregon, Nevada, and California as a Pacific Republic, a confederacy all of its own, allied with the Confederacy in the Southeast. The Knights of the Golden Circle here drilled with the handgun and the long gun and all of that in secret, in the dark, in barns, and in the middle of the woods, perfecting their aim so that they could assassinate the Governor Pickering, who had been appointed by Abraham Lincoln, and all of the other political patronage positions here in Washington. This is true terrorism, and the governor was truly terrified. There's a letter of his to the military governor of this Pacific Northwest region with all underlinings of words and exclamation marks about the thousands of members of Knights of the Golden Circle in Washington alone who he thought were after his head. Surely the number was exaggerated, but his fear was not, and he was terrified. He perceived the Knights of the Golden Circle as terrorists.
So there was a threat of terrorism. There was a sense of terrorism. But was there evidence to back that up? Did the Knights of the Golden Circle actually commit acts of violence that would evidence the fact that they were actually terrorists?
No, but they wanted to. They were ready to. That's why they were drilling. They were waiting at the drop of a hat for someone to say, go and assassinate the governor, the postal workers, all of the Lincoln appointees. There are Confederates ready to take their place. This was very real. It didn't happen. And there's a kind of presentism to looking back at an event like this and saying, well, since it didn't happen, these people weren't terrorists. The Knights of the Golden Circle were willing to use terror and violence to further their own aims. They were perceived as terrorists, and they themselves viewed themselves as terrorists. The term terrorism was very common at the time, and it was bandied about during the Civil War. Knights of the Golden Circle and Democrats would call Republicans abolition terrorists. It was a common term, a common slur.
During the Civil War, the Union government, Abraham Lincoln, highly censored what Confederate sympathizers, including the Knights of the Golden Circle, could say publicly. Isn't this censorship an infringement upon our First Amendment rights?
You were not permitted to dissent with the Civil War. Dissent with the Civil War was treason in the eyes of Republicans, and slurring someone as the Knight of the Golden Circle, slurring him as an enemy within, became a way of controlling and intimidating dissent on the Civil War home front.